is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 91 of the Be Great podcast. On today's episode, Week 10 review. Week 10 is officially in the mirror. I cannot get out of 5-5, 6-4 purgatory with my game picks. I went 5-5 once again. We're going to talk about the 4 games that I thought were the most interesting and important that went on this past weekend. So let's just hop right into it. Week 10 was a little bit of a snoozer, I'm not going to hold you, but 4 things happened that were important and that were interesting. Let's get into the first game. Texas was hosting the Vanderbilt Commodores, America's team, and unfortunately, Vanderbilt fell. Because Arch Manning actually finally decided that he wants to be a quarterback and that he wants to be competent. And so, he was solid. 25 of 33, 328 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 93 QBR. What would concern me if I'm Texas is the fact that as Texas, I have been putting all of my faith in this defense. I have talked about how great this defense is. And yet, they allowed Vanderbilt to come back in this football game and make it a 3-score game. And Vanderbilt, oh my gosh, they had that onside kick in their hands and let it slip away. That would have been one of the all-time collapses by a football team. By a football team. Vanderbilt goes 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter. That would concern me if I'm Texas. The fact that I have allowed teams like Kentucky and Mississippi State to hang in there with me and almost beat me. And then I get such a massive lead on a team like Vanderbilt, a good football team, and almost allow them to complete the fourth quarter comeback. That would concern me. It would concern me a lot. I mean, you had a 34-10 lead going into the fourth quarter, and you end up winning 34-31. Like, that would be concerning if I'm Texas. Now you get a bye week, and then you get Georgia. We're going to learn everything we need to learn about Texas in that Georgia game. Because every game for Texas here on out is a must-win. The Georgia game and the Texas A&M game are must-win football games. You cannot lose. Because if you lose, you have 3 losses. You won't make the SEC championship game, which means you're cooked. It means you're cooked. So you got to win. On the Vanderbilt side, it's an unfortunate one. If you didn't let the game get away from you in the first half like you did, you would have still had a chance going into you would have really had a chance to win this game, and you probably would have won this game if you don't go down 17-0 in like 3 minutes or whatever it was in the first quarter. But look, I still believe Vanderbilt has everything in front of them. They're 7-2. They have to win out, though. I always say, if you only have 2 losses, if you finish the season 10-2, you give yourself a chance. But if you're 9-3, you're dead. Unless everyone else is also 9-3, which won't happen, obviously. So, Vanderbilt needs to win out. Texas needs to win out. That's where we're at with these 2 teams. But Arch Manning seem to have gotten better, but we will see how it looks on the road in Athens. That's when the real test is. That's when we really see, okay, is this Texas team, are they anything to be concerned about? Are they anything to be worried about? Which I don't think they are. Just a little spoiler. Oklahoma, Tennessee. This one was surprising. This one was very surprising for me. Ever since the Georgia game, Tennessee has been on a downward spiral. And here they are. They now sit at 6-3. 3-3 in the SEC, and they still have to play Vanderbilt. And I don't know who. Let me look at their schedule. Who else does Tennessee have to play? Let's see. I know they have to play. Oh, they still have to play Florida. So they're at Florida and then have Vanderbilt to end the season. I mean, those are two losable games. Those are two. Look, playing at the Swamp, never fun, and Vanderbilt's a good football team. It was a really promising start to the season for Tennessee, but man, watching Tennessee more and more, what I've come to realize is that this team is so much of explosive or nothing. And what I mean by that is if they don't get the explosive plays like Georgia's defense allowed them to, they kind of just don't do much offensively. Because Joey Aguilar, he loves to throw into double coverage deep down the field. And if they don't hit those explosives, they're kind of just dead in the water. They don't run the ball very well, which is surprising considering with Dylan Sampson, they ran the ball very well. I mean, Deshaun Bishop, 12 for 38, averaged barely over 3 yards a carry. I mean, Joey Aguilar, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And the thing is, you lost to Oklahoma. John Mateer didn't even play good. He was 19 for 29, 159 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, and an 0 passing touchdowns, and an interception, 72 QBR. He was worse than Joey. And you still lost. Because your defense managed to allow Xavier Robinson and Oklahoma, a team who hasn't been able to run the ball effectively all season, and you allowed Xavier Robinson to run 16 times for 115 yards, averaging over 7 yards a carry. And he had a touchdown. And John Mateer rushed for a touchdown. That is unacceptable. And John Mateer himself had 80 yards rushing. That's unacceptable. Oklahoma hasn't been able to run the ball all season. Their offensive line is not very good. This is their backup running back. And you can't stop them. You couldn't stop Georgia running the ball either. Tennessee's defense, I think, has been overrated all season. I think that's what we've come to learn. We thought it was, just because they didn't have their 2 corners against Tennessee. Clearly, that isn't the case. They had Colton Hood for this game. They still can't stop anybody. A team that can't run the ball, well, guess what? If you need to figure out how to run the ball, go face Tennessee. You'll figure it out quickly. This team not going to make the playoffs. They're dead in the water because they have 3 losses. Oklahoma still has everything in front of them, but they still have to play Alabama, and I think they still have to play LSU. I could be wrong about that. So they still have everything in front of them, but it's going to be hard, and I'm not a believer in this Oklahoma team. I like the defense. I don't like the offense at all. I think the offense is so mediocre. Painfully mediocre, even. I keep checking my phone because it's NFL trade deadline, and I'm getting more and more stressed that the Steelers are not making a trade, but it is what it is, I guess. It is what it is. Let's go to the next game. Georgia, Florida. You know, of course, I would have loved Georgia to just come out and just dominate for once in their life, you know. Of course, that didn't happen. But I'm not upset because at the end of the day, you can't be upset when you win a football game. That's what I believe. Gunnar Stockton, 20 for 29, 223 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. With a 72 QPR. DJ Lagway, 15 for 24, 166 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, a 54 QBR. And that's the story of the game. DJ wasn't as good as Gunnar. Florida's offense There were moments where Florida's offense was humming, although it was more because Georgia's defense allowed broken coverage. But Florida could not stop Chauncey Bowens. 9 carries for 70 yards, almost averaging 8 yards a carry, plus a game-winning touchdown. Nate Frazier had a solid day. They were running the ball pretty well against Georgia with Jaden Baugh, better than most teams do. He had a touchdown, 15 for 72, almost 5 yards a carry. They were missing 2 wide receivers coming into the game, lost Dallas Wilson at halftime. A lot of people are talking about the no catch that happened in the fourth quarter. Here's what I'm going to say about it. I think there wasn't enough evidence to say whether it was or was not a catch. I think if the call was a catch on the field, I think it would have upheld. And if it was ruled not a catch, which it was, then it would have also been upheld, which it was. I think anyone sitting here saying that, oh, it is not even close, it's so obvious it was a catch, or so obvious it wasn't a catch, you're absolutely lying, and you're full of crap. That's just what I'm going to tell you. Okay? The Gunnar Stockton fumble, guess what? Wasn't a fumble. The DJ Lagway one, I'd probably say was not a fumble too. I was not surprised they upheld that. But if Gunnar's was a fumble, if you're saying Gunnar's was a fumble, DJ's was a fumble. That's all I'm going to say. And people want to act like, oh, the refs are on Georgia's side. Gunnar Stockton got called for a false start because he clapped too hard. Don't even start with me. That took points off the board. This game should be 27-20 minimum. Technically speaking, because Gunnar took a knee, it should be, 34-20 is really what this score should be. So don't even start with me about refs. And guess what? You wouldn't have to worry about whether or not the guy caught the ball if DJ wouldn't have just severely underthrown a wide open receiver. You wouldn't have even had to worry about it. And also, let's say he does catch it and they call it a catch. You're just assuming Florida scores a touchdown because Georgia's up 4. They have to score a touchdown, which they had only done twice in the entire game. So once again, you're just assuming Florida scores a touchdown there, which is no guarantee. Especially since, the next play, 2 plays later, DJ almost throws a pick 6 to Ellis Robinson? I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Okay, if you want to complain about something, how about on 4th and inches? You hand the ball off to Jaden Baugh and he loses yards. And then somehow the refs are like, oh, we got to measure. It's not even close, but we got to measure. But no, we're going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, Georgia's gotten 2 Mickey wins because the refs are handing them wins. First of all, Auburn had an entire second half to overcome that fumble, and they had 25 total yards. Don't even get me started. Florida had... that was not the last play. Y'all act like that was the last play of the game. Even if it was a catch, you can't just assume they're going to score a touchdown. I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, I think targeting also is called terribly. KJ Bolden got ejected for targeting, yet I saw Caleb Downs almost take a man's head off who was mid-flight. And somehow he gets to stay in the game. Caleb Downs himself was shocked that he got to stay in the game. So don't even start. Just don't even start. By the way, the first college football playoff rankings come out. tonight. I'm sure that won't piss me off at all. I'm kidding because they always piss me off. Look, I feel like the playoff rankings tonight, really, I feel like is super simple. And yet I feel like they're going to make me angry. Because honestly, I don't think it should be that much different from the AP poll. You put Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, Alabama 4, Georgia 5. Okay? Then I could see there being some variation. Personally, after Georgia being at 5, I think I would go... Personally, I think I'd go Ole Miss 6, and then Oregon 7. And then I'd probably go... The question is, do they put BYU in because they're the undefeated team? Because I think Texas Tech is better than them, and I think Texas Tech will be the eventual Big 12 champion. So it's like, which one do they put in? But I would then put Texas Tech at 8. And then probably Notre Dame 9. Oh, there has to be an ACC team, doesn't there? They should probably be the 11 seed. Who would I put at 10? I guess they could put BYU at 10. I guess BYU 10. What? And then Louisville 11. And then who's the group of 5? Is it Memphis? Who cares? Whatever group of 5, team 12. I think it's fairly simple. I will say this. If the top 5 is not Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, I am going to lose it. I better not see Oregon. I better not see Ole Miss. Oregon got dominated at home by Indiana. Yes, Georgia lost at home too. It was by 3 points. Ole Miss, Georgia beat Ole Miss, so there's not even a conversation to have there. But let's talk about the last game I want to talk about. Miami at SMU. Oh, man. Miami, when will you learn? When will the national media learn when it comes to Miami? When are people going to stop getting duped by Miami every single season? We do this every year. What happens? Miami starts off 4-0, 5-0, whatever it is. They go undefeated through September and like half of October. But then once it gets close to Halloween season, what always happens? Mario Cristobal starts to show exactly who he is. A fraud. A joke of a head coach. And what makes it even more fitting is that Carson Beck is your quarterback. And as a Georgia fan, I find it to be hilarious. Hilarious. You see, you wonder why Kirby was perfectly fine going with Gunner over Carson Beck, because Kirby's an actual good head coach, unlike Mario Cristobal. Unlike the University of Miami, who overpaid for a bum at quarterback. Carson Beck has really good potential. He does. When he is on, when he is in the zone, he looks great. The problem is that he has games like the Louisville game. He has games like this SMU game. And when he was at Georgia last year, he had a ton of games like that. The Florida game. Luckily, Georgia was good enough to overcome a lot of it. Miami is not that. Miami doesn't have that culture. Miami doesn't have that leadership. Carson Beck was 26 for 38, 274 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That is Carson Beck for you. Just as many interceptions as touchdowns. It's a joke. in this Miami defense. You allow Kevin Jennings to throw for 365 yards on you? Are you serious? Are you serious? Kevin Jennings isn't even good. He's so overrated. You see, Carson Beck has always had the same problem. When he's on time, when he's in rhythm, when he doesn't try and do too much, he's really good. But it's the moments where he tries to play hero ball and he tries to force throws and he thinks he's better than he actually is, which leads to him forcing throws that he never should be forcing, which then leads to all of these interceptions. That's also who he is. And you overpaid for him. And again, I asked the media people, back when the Miami was 4-0, 5-0, and all of you were saying, "Oh, Miami might be the best team in the country. Miami, they're a complete team. They're a complete team. They could win a national championship." Like, why do you keep falling for it? Why do you do this to yourself? Why? The last bandwagon you should be jumping on is the Miami Hurricane bandwagon. I would rather jump on the Penn State bandwagon every year than the Miami bandwagon. At least Penn State makes the playoff. Miami can't even spell playoffs. They don't know what that's like. And here they are, 6-2, 2-2 in the ACC. Their season is over. Their season is over. They are dead in the water. Yes, I've been saying, oh, well, it's 3 losses will make you dead. If you're in the ACC, if you have 2 losses, you are dead. Most of the time, if you have 1 loss, you're dead. Georgia Tech, those bums in Atlanta, lost to NC State. They're very close to being dead. That's a terrible, terrible loss. NC State's not a good football team. This is where we are. Louisville probably going to win the conference. Georgia Tech could. The problem is Georgia Tech still has to play Georgia. Now that won't affect them as far as getting to the ACC championship, but Virginia's looking solid. Louisville, I think at this point, in my opinion, Louisville is the best team in the ACC. That's just how I feel about it. But man, Miami is in shambles once again, and guess what? They're going to be in shambles again next year. Because I guarantee you they're going to go out there and they're going to spend so much money in the transfer portal for another overrated transfer portal quarterback. And we're going to go through the same song and dance next year. And they are going to stay in Mario Cristobal purgatory for years to come. Because he's good enough to get you a lot of good talent, but he will never win you a national championship. That is a fact. By the way, the NFL trade deadline is 6 minutes from being over. The Steelers have yet to do anything, as far as I know, which is just really making me sad. It's really making me sad. But it is what it is, I guess. It is what it is. The Jets are having a fire sale. They sent Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys. They sent Sauce Gardner to the Colts. Gosh, maybe some craziness can happen in the next 5 minutes. We'll see. But I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode. I will be having another episode talking about the college football playoff rankings and previewing week 11 of college football. I hope everyone has a great day. Don't forget to go out there and be great.